Are we ready to go, guys?
Sure.
All right. Welcome to Practical Shooting After Dark. My name is Ben. We're here to talk about shooting stuff. On deck tonight from Georgia, Mr. Tyler Turner.
Hey, people.
Hey, people. And from North Carolina, Fayetteville, the home of culture and, I don't know, lovely food and good beer. Is that right, Matt?
That's right.
Yeah, so Matt Prank is here. Everybody's asking for you back, Matt. Everybody, bring that guy back on. They're like, that other EJ guy sucks, but bring Matt back.
EJ's good.
No, that nobody's thought EJ sucked. Everybody likes EJ. All right. Today we've got kind of a fun conversation because it is timely. We have a thing to discuss that's drama-ish that I actually feel a bit compelled to talk about because it's kind of important. And I didn't want to do this, but we got to do it. And Matt's going to talk about instructors who don't demo and what they can do. And then we'll take a question. So it'll be a fun little episode. So let's talk about the Tony Cowden situation. Does that sound good, Mr. Tyler? I assume yep. Tyler is a trained investigator and is equipped with a lot of facts.
I do actually do it for a living. Not USPSA investigations, but...
Well, apparently nobody does them for a living at USPSA.
Gotta be careful. You come in with all those facts that makes people mad.
Okay, so let's talk about what's going on. Big picture, if you haven't heard, and a lot of listeners probably haven't, there's basically a dude accused of cheating by altering tablets, altering scores in tablets, with practice score, edit logs, and all of that good stuff. This is the first time that's happened in the organization, that's for sure. This situation was investigated apparently by USPSA over the course of many months, which Tyler and I were trying to figure out how long it's been. Maybe a year long, on and off. It went to a board vote, and it was decided, we think, almost certainly, that basically the majority of the board felt that there wasn't enough evidence to punt the guy, which would be a lifetime ban from the organization. That's a fair characterization, Mr. Tyler?
Right.
All right. So before we get into this, I just want to say, for me personally, I wanted not to have anything to do with this. I mean, not that it didn't need doing. It obviously needed doing, but I've been hip to this for a while, and everybody that I discussed this issue with, it was like, hey, take what you've got, just pass it up the chain to USPSA. Though they will sort it out. It definitely looks pretty bad. And finally, the situation came to a head when, let's just say I talked to a couple of the right people, and I'm like, you need to address this. And I think the internet's going to address it for you if you don't address it. And then that's when the Tony ultimately got a suspension letter from USPSA, temporarily suspending him, and then it went to a board vote. I don't know if my conversations caused that to happen or not, but the timing's definitely suspicious. One thing I want to clear up before anybody gets upset and starts sending me nasty emails. A lot of people think that there's some beef going on. I don't have a relationship with Tony Cowden at all. He was organizing a class for me this year. He seemed like a fine dude to me from Instagram and whatever. And it's nice to have a former, what do you call them, Matt? Former action guys. You can react, Matt. You don't just smile. It's an audio podcast. What's the word? I don't know. You're in the same community, like a former special operations dude.
Yeah.
Organizing his own matches and really promoting USPSA quite heavily on his Instagram page. I'm like, yep, that's great. That's great for the sport. So I don't have a relationship with the dude. We did exchange a couple emails on this, but nothing else. So I don't know the guy, and I don't have a beef with him, if anybody's wondering. And if you've been also, you might have seen some of the things that I've posted online, which would include practice score edits that were put into spreadsheets so people could understand them. Electronic communications, I've posted a few of those, and all of that stuff was obtained from a firsthand source. That means that I didn't take anything and get it from some guy who got it from some guy who maybe chopped it up. Like I got it from one half of a conversation, and the person said, I had a conversation with each person, like, yep, this is the context of this conversation. This is what this is. You have my permission to put this out there, all that stuff. I redacted a couple sensitive pieces of information at people's request, but everything that I put up was coming firsthand from somebody who was directly involved in it. Okay. Is that a good place to start? Tyler?
Yeah.
What am I forgetting?
Yeah, and there's all you've posted really. You haven't done much editorializing. You're just posting the stuff.
Yeah.
The stuff you have on hand.
Well, I should say not all the stuff I have on hand. I like to keep a little bit in the hopper, but yeah, I mean some stuff, and it makes a fairly compelling case. Well, I mean, well, let's just say it like this dude was cheating, definitely cheating. The reason for my involvement in this right now, probably yours, Tyler, and I assume Matt's, is the organizational issue that we have here is it's a problem. Like I could give two shits about one specific guy in one place, but if you have people, basically the picture that we're going to paint is that there's flagrant cheating going on for quite a while with many people reporting it, like information passed up the chain to USPSA, and really at this point nothing happened. Like the guy's still in the organization. So that is a problem. So I think best place to start is what exactly this guy did and how we know he did it. So Tyler, how many edits were there so that we know about?
I think the official board figure was 22, right?
It's 22 classifier edits, I think, is what they were using. I don't think they were hip to the stage edits.
Yeah, I don't think they mentioned any like field course edits. But that's the number that keeps getting tossed around in all the discussions is 21 or 22, 21 of which resulted in an increased score.
Okay, so then what? Like, I guess we'll paint the broader picture here. So what happened is dude had that dude or someone on dude's behalf. I guess we don't know that part, but quite likely dude, almost certainly dude. Right, so the guy edited his scores on a tablet, and so to put it in context, it is not unusual for there to be an edit to someone's score. It happens fairly infrequently, but it does happen. It's difficult to really give it a number, but when you see somebody having, we're talking 30 edits, 40 edits on their scores over the course of a couple years, that in and of itself, like, and those edits generally increasing the score. There's a couple legitimate ones in there for sure. That's what we know. There's maybe an improperly or more than one improperly edited or improperly recorded classifier reshoots. And there might have been a couple changes on some other stages. Like we don't know the reason for every individual edit. But the picture that this paints is somebody systematically changing their scores over time in order to get better scores and primarily to get a higher classification. I think that's a fair way to characterize it. And just on the face of those edits, I think the opinion of most people, certainly of the internet, most people look at that and be like, yep, this dude's guilty. This is cheating. Just looking at the edit logs. Is that fair to say, Tyler?
Yeah, I think that's enough for the majority of guys who know anything about USPSA and how the scoring model works and how scoring logistically works with tablets and practice score.
Yes.
That's enough for guys, USPSA guys, that's enough. The guys who don't understand USPSA, that's the guys who don't understand how this works.
Well, like for me, that would be enough that I would start digging. And if I don't find something more conclusive that this dude is cheating, like I would think that there's something wrong with me. Now, there's some good tools to do that. So let's say, for example, USPSA gets hip to that this is going on and they reach out to this guy for him to explain these edits, and then he can't do it or won't do it. That on like him being unwilling to explain the edits, be like, yeah, like go fuck yourself. I'm not going to talk to you. Like that would be enough to punt him, in my opinion. They've just like not cooperating with it. Like, all right, see ya. But then any explanation that he gives, which you've been paying pretty close attention to anything coming out of his mouth, I think, Tyler, and the story keeps changing, or at least in part keeps changing. So we know that the edits happened. We know that they were, by and large, helping his score. Super suspicious. And then some of the explanations he's given that I've posted, they're in writing. Those things have those statements don't make any sense, or they're verifiably false. So I'll give you an example. Now, this is why people might think I have a relationship with the guy. He emailed me about this. He was organizing a class for me, which obviously I'm not going to do. And we'll talk more about how that's going to get fixed later, right, Matt?
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, this guy emails me and is like, hey, what's going on here? So I sent him a spreadsheet that I thought may well have been sent to the board of directors about a invitation-only classifier match that he ran at his match at his club. And like, hey, I mean, this isn't even part of the edit thing, is it, Tyler? No. This is a separate issue, but yep. he ran an invitation-only classifier match at his range, and I sent tables of when the scores were entered and all this sort of thing, like when those scores were entered from the tablets. I sent him that, and I attached the sheet of info that may be helpful. I don't know for sure, but this information may have gone to USPSA. And his reply was, actually, that's super helpful. The notes specifically. It was over 100 degrees that day, and the pads wouldn't work. We copied the scores on paper and transposed them after everyone was done. Had they bothered to ask anyone on the list, they'd have known it. So he gave me a couple things in there that I can check on. One of them being the temperature, which it was not over 100 degrees that day. It was daytime high of 91, I think, at his range. And it's an afternoon match, like late afternoon. So it's about 85 degrees during the match and falling. So like that part was not true, verifiably. And then when he says we copied the scores to paper and transposed them, everyone was done. You'd expect to see like some scores entered and then a big gap and then a cluster of scores entered all at once, which is not what the logs for the timestamps indicate. That's like, nope, that did not happen. So when I got this email back from him, I was, at this point, he'd been suspended. And I was looking at this like, this dude's fucked. Like, if he answers questions for 10 minutes, like if you put him in a room with Tyler for 10 minutes and Tyler asks questions and he answers them, like there's no way this is going to hold up. No way at all. And that wasn't all. There was some other stuff that got sent up to the board. A guy having PMs with this dude. I posted this where a guy just emails him out or DMs him on Instagram, I should say, after a match, like, hey, like basically your score is wrong on this. And the guy, Tony, acknowledges like, yep, my score is wrong. I'll get it fixed. That's essentially the gist of that conversation. So he's acknowledging that some of the scores were wrong. So there's no way that this story holds up, I would say. So that's a fair way of putting it. There's a lot more to this, by the way. If you want to go on my business Facebook page and read it, or go on my Instagram page, you can find most of this stuff. But there's no way this story holds up.
I think
Go ahead, Matt.
Sorry. Yeah, I think there's just way too many consistent inconsistencies.
Yes.
It's the same reoccurring thing. And then
an explanation that makes no sense.
Yeah, it's unexplainable. You can't.
Well, but which was good. Well, the good part for the people like looking at this and be like, yep, this guy did this. He had about a 6-minute video he posted to Instagram where he's like kind of talks around this, and he says there's a lot of, I mean, part of that video, you can go watch it if you want. It's like, part of it's like, there's some of these edits I can't explain. He was pretty clear about that. He's like, no one can really prove I did this. No one, I can't really prove I didn't, where he's saying that. And you're like, I don't know about that. But one of his big points was that he never touched a tablet during the early part of his USPSA career. And more than one person have come forward to refute that, including the guy that kind of confidentially went to the board as a witness for this. Like, hey, yeah, I saw this guy with a tablet. And I also posted those communications that he sent, used the USPSA contact form on their website, said, hey, I've got this information. And he passed that up to the president of the organization. And, at the end of the day, it was a no vote. So it's it's a bit baffling. So, I guess.
Just for the benefit of the listener, if they want to go on his Instagram and check it out, it's Tony_Cowden. He made 2 posts about his suspension. One was a screen cap of the letter from Foley to him, and that was on September 12th. The other was like the 6-minute video you mentioned. Both of those posted on September 12th. But just to backtrack a little bit, another place I think people are a little bit confused is he was just a shooter for a while, and then he chartered his own club it was in North Carolina, right?
Yeah.
It's not too far from you, Matt.
Yeah, he chartered his own USPSA club. It was official and everything. And once he got that up and running, the special invitation-only classifier he ran he was the MD of that. And so his explanation is, I never handled a tablet until I began running my own matches, and I became the MD. That's the only capacity in which I've ever handled a tablet. So that's his explanation of that.
Yeah. So I mean, I think the gist of his story is like, I don't really know. Some of these edits were reshoots that were. His story's changing on Instagram now, where he'd be like he's saying these are essentially. He doesn't explicitly say all, but he's like, hey, it's classifier reshoots that were improperly recorded. But when he posted his video like a month ago, it was, some of these are classifier reshoots that are improperly recorded. I can't explain all of these edits. I know that I didn't do them. That was kind of his story. So on the strength of this, there's really no doubt, not a reasonable one anyway, in my mind, that this dude did this. I mean, that's sad. I mean, you don't want to think that of anybody, but there's really no, I mean, when you have that many edits, the story keeps changing, and it's like, yep, like there's really no other explanation. Then the interesting thing becomes to like, well, what were people sending up to the USPSA organization? When were they sending it? So there's a couple posts here that are super interesting. One of them is a guy that, well, I know this guy, Mark Cowder. He said, guys, I'm the AC for Alabama. I think he means area coordinator. Okay. One of our clubs was the first to report him when they noted match, stage, and classifier score edits at their match, when he did not reshoot the classifier, and after he took over the scoring device at their match. They had never seen him before. They reported to me, and I reported it up the chain. Those match MDs were pissed enough to go to the practice score competitor to see all the other changes he'd made over the previous 18 months or so. After he was confronted, suddenly the changes stopped happening at matches he attended. So this is giving you, like, again, to backtrack, these edits are happening over a long period of time.
Dude, I'll tell you, that right there in itself is proof.
Yes.
It's like you didn't understand how practice score worked, and you just kept changing your scores.
All right.
And you got called out, and it stopped.
Oh, Matt. Oh, yes, Matt. That actually is like that timeline. That timeline is extremely suspicious. Like, and then you put that into the bigger picture, and you're like, yeah, there's really no doubt. Anyway, practice score competitors see all the other changes he made over the previous 18 months or so. After he was confronted, suddenly the changes stopped happening at matches he attended. Once USPSA said that they could not prove it, which at this point, I don't understand that. But once USPSA said that they could not prove it, no one saw him actually change scores. So just think about what they've got here. They know the scores are changing. They see him with the tablet. The scores are changing in his favor. And that is, I mean, it seems to me like if you have a conversation with him, there's no way his story holds up. So I don't know how they can't get proof anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I don't understand what USPSA thinks someone's going to see him stand over his shoulder while he's on one shooter, but he's in his own record changing it. Like he would just stop. There's.
Yes, they would. So once they couldn't prove it, USPSA dropped the investigation. So this will, again, if you go through and read through all this stuff, it's apparent that there's like one investigation and then a second investigation starts. Then a couple months later, it appeared again at the Griffin match in Georgia, and it was reported. That prompted the board's meeting. At our match and the Griffin match, we know he was in possession when the edits happened. long after the stages were shot by his squad. So take what you will from all that. So I'll editorialize a little bit here. So from reading this post, it seems very well sourced and credible, and you're like, yep, I know who this guy is. This guy is who he says he is. And the people at this club, or in his area, they were like, there was no doubt that dude's in possession of the tablet, and they were getting it down to like at what minute he was holding the tablet. And they're like, we're sure he was holding the tablet when the edits happened. Now, I don't know if they're right about that or not, but if you take this sort of statement, which it seems apparent that USPSA had, and then you pair that with dude's Instagram video saying, hey, I didn't touch the tablet. Like when somebody has an explanation that's provably false, it's like, yeah, you're going to get smoked for that. That's the way that works. So again, it's like a little bit, I guess, baffling what happened here, how the vote went the way it did, which we'll talk about the vote itself in a second, because that was pretty interesting. But anyway, like that's one of the posts that just went up tonight. Like, so this is Wednesday, October 23rd. We're recording this. There's more stuff coming out, and I'm sure there's more to come in the following days. So like that post itself, very damaging. Another match director posting, hey, I'm not going to read his verbatim, but he keeps detailed financial records of reshoots. And this guy saying that this was a reshoot, like that's not true, because he never paid for one, and this guy would know. Okay, so lots of interesting information coming out. So I guess like all of us sitting here are sure that dude did it. Anybody who goes and looks and can read through all this stuff, if they have to kind of parse it out a little bit and find it in different places. But if you go look at like what I've put on Instagram, what I put on Facebook, what other people are putting up in the Area 6 Facebook page, I go look at Tony's Instagram page, and you start putting the pieces together, it paints a very clear picture. And then you get to the vote, which, what were the results again, Tyler?
All right. There was a motion made to terminate the membership of Tony Cowden. Mike Foley, the president, voted yes to terminate. Area 3, Sherman Greenfield voted yes. A5, Rick Steele voted yes. The remaining area directors being Bruce Gary, Area 1, Leighton Ustai. I'm sorry. If you're listening to this,
I think it's Leighton Uthausen.
I'm sorry. A2, Leighton voted no. A4, Mike Pinto voted no. A7, Lee Cabana voted no. And Area 8, Kevin McPhee voted no. So we got some yes votes and some no votes, with the no's having it. I'm sorry. Area 6 was not present in person. He had a proxy there, and by way of his proxy, Area 6 abstained from the vote.
Yes. So if there was some magical thing exonerating Tony, you would expect a unanimous no, or you expect him, I guess, never to call the vote if that happened. But there being dissension, and then if you're kind of reading what the area directors that are talking, if you're reading what they're saying, it's pretty clear they thought they didn't have enough proof, or like they're kind of wishy-washy this, or they thought the lifetime ban was too much in this case.
Yeah, from what I've read, I think that's the conclusion you could draw. And this is one guy. This may be his opinion, may not be reflective of the other board members who voted no. But the impression I get is that they felt there was evidence, but it wasn't. It seems to me
they said it's circumstantial. The case is circumstantial.
Well, that's one thing they said.
Hey Tyler, if you had one of your clients and you get your discovery packet, like for one of the clients that you're meant to defend, and this is what the packet is, it's in there, what would you tell that guy to do?
We need to negotiate a plea deal.
Exactly. No, I mean, like that's like this guy would get buried in court. I mean,
yeah, well, there are guys every day, people every day in America that get sent down the road for murder on strictly circumstantial evidence. It's almost a meaningless distinction. Like, evidence is evidence. It's the totality of what you have. And it does not matter if it's circumstantial or direct, it's the total weight of it.
Yes.
To expect direct evidence in certain cases is silly.
Well, yeah, I mean, they're like, unless, again, if somebody saw him changing a score on a tablet, that would still probably not be direct enough because it'd be, well, what score was he changing? Did you see the score? Did you, I mean, do you, like, you'd have to be looking over his shoulder essentially.
How is a classifier reshoot that takes you from 16% to 100% and you don't pay for it? I mean, that's not circumstantial.
Well, yeah, I mean, it is. I mean, there's some of these where they just parts of the score change, but the time will stay the same, and you're like, well, what are the odds he reshot it in exactly the same time? Like that explanation doesn't wash.
Yeah.
Well, and on certain stages, there are multiple edits where the time gets a little better, a mic becomes a delta, and apparently that didn't raise it enough. Like you're playing What If with the tablet in real time, and then like the third edit or the second edit, you keep the time the same, but the two deltas become two alpha, and apparently that was okay. Like, yeah, that'll work. The seventh hit factor will work.
Yeah, what did you say to me the other day, Tyler? Like he's not a very good liar, but he's committed.
Was that me?
You said that. I mean, I don't know if I'm
remember.
going to put that out, but
I may have. But,
yes.
But going back to what I can infer from the few area directors that are speaking about it, it seems like they thought they had a certain burden of proof that they chose for themselves. And while there may be some evidence, it may be compelling evidence, they didn't think it merited a lifetime ban. And that was the other complaint of the area directors, which is this is a binary situation. We have no in-between punishment or sanction. It's either lifetime ban or reinstatement.
Yeah. I mean, again, that's a fair summation of what they said. And look, this is just scratching the surface. If you want to go nerd out on the internet and read this stuff, go ahead and read it. For all of any of us sitting here looking at this, like I have no reasonable doubt that I can't even think of any scenario. I can't imagine it short from like aliens doing it or something. Like that doesn't make any sense. Like I can't think of a scenario where this guy didn't do this. And I'm not happy about that. That's just the way it is. The actual issue for me, want to be just sitting back where I am, is you have an issue of flagrant cheating from somebody who's not going to hold up under any sort of like sustained questioning, where you go through and you parse out statements and you fact check what's being said, and you have people passing information up the chain. And it's like, well, again, Tyler, in your job, if somebody sends you an email where they're like, yep, this is what I see here, it's very compelling, and you're like, this person says they saw this, these other people over here said they saw that. I mean, I imagine your reply back would be getting contact information for those people. And you're like, oh, those are people I want to have conversations with. And then you'll read a reply back from USPSA where it's just like, okay, thanks. And it's like, that's the end, where you send an email that's extremely compelling with lots of information you want to check out, lots of facts you want to gather, lots of people you want to talk to, because you can start building this picture about what happened, and they just don't do it.
Well, and on that theme, like it seems to me, now I don't know for a fact, but it seems to me a lot of this was volunteer information. This wasn't an investigative process. Like I can tell you in my work, I never get an email with like all the facts laid in my lap. I would love that, because then all I have to do is make a phone call, draft a subpoena, give it to them. We're ready to go. Like it's just dropped in your lap. Like I don't know. I don't get it.
Right. So the reason I'm talking about this is because I mean, if you've interacted with some of the personalities involved, this will probably not surprise you, but there'll be some really hinky stuff going on at matches, and you're like, hey, this is what's going on over there. Go check that out. And getting people off the four-wheeler to go do something about it can be a challenge. And then this is the most egregious example I can remember, where you have a fairly easy case to make if one is so inclined. And like for whatever reason, whatever the disconnect is of the organization, they can't get it done. They can't make it happen. And that's why this is important to me, is because this is the organization putting on matches, and the results of those are somewhat important to me. So if they can't sort of smack down let me put it this way. I saw a guy make a comment on Facebook. I don't know this guy or what the truth value is of this, but he said, "Yep, I had a similar cheating incident local to me. I reported it. Nothing happened." And I read that and I'm like, "Well, yeah, I totally believe that." I mean, I think that the what you have to do to make something happen here is crazy. Like, I don't like this trial by internet shit. I did everything I could to avoid it. I mean, the personalities involved in this that talked to me knew that I was not going to do nothing if it went this way. But I'm a little surprised I even have to do anything. Like, it doesn't make any sense to me. It's like this was a pretty easy case to make.
Well, and cheating is the one thing the org can't.
You cannot survive. Have it. It's AIDS. It's cancer.
Yeah,
it's done.
You can survive as much as we like to bitch about division changes and proper calibration. Yeah. None of that matters on the scale compared to cheating. Like, that's the one thing that can't happen.
Well, how about this? If it happens, you know about it, you're kind of compelled to do something.
You have to run it out of the sport. You have to destroy it entirely.
Yeah, and right now, like if you see a guy do something that is, I guess you call it cheating at a club match, he does it one time. At this point, the odds of any sort of discipline falling onto that person, I mean, from the organization, it'd be social only. So basically, the box that we're in as competitors is that if we want this stuff policed, it's like trial by internet or trial by social pressure is like the only way to do it, which is not the right way. I mean, it would have been better. This is just handled discreetly. It's taken care of. I show up at this guy's range and do the class that I'm supposed to do. And I'm just like, oh yeah, man, that's unfortunate. And and it's never, it's never an issue for me or anyone else. It's handled, boom, done. And it doesn't turn into an internet fuckfest.
Well, in fairness, I think we need to note that the person who started this was Tony Cowden. If he didn't,
that is true. Tony did start the internet fuckfest part of this.
He brought attention to his suspension. He put it out there. He broadcast it to his followers.
He actually kind of called out USPSA to his 35,000 Instagram followers, which was not too good.
At that point, I was like, man, they're gonna hammer it. They're gonna stick it to him hard.
Yeah, I was thinking like he's gonna get smashed. Like there's no, I mean, what is? And then,
it's a bold move, Cotton. Let's see if it works out for him. And it worked out.
It's crazy. And then he goes on and makes a 6-minute video explaining himself, giving more evidence against himself. If you're ever in a situation like this, even if you didn't do anything wrong, shut up. You can't help yourself. Just shut up.
It's mind-boggling. But it would be different, though, if he didn't go on and affirmatively say, I did not do this. Because the invitation is then there if you are armed with the evidence to say, well, you did do this.
Yes.
That's all that happened in a nutshell.
Yes. Anyway, Matt, you were going to say something.
No, I think it's unfortunate. I think too that the organization's fooling themselves if they don't think he's not going to continue doing it.
Well, I don't like. How about this, Matt? Do you think that the people casting votes care that much?
No, I don't think they care at all. I don't think they wanted. They probably didn't even want to vote on it.
Jesus.
I think that's probably likely. It's just a big procedural process that's a pain in everyone's ass, and they're like, and it turned out like, hey, let's just make it go away, not understanding that the guys that shoot USPSA, people invest a lot of time and money in this with virtually zero return, other than they're committed to the process and to just being better. and the competition side of it, that's who are the most upset about this, if it's true.
What? Yeah, but what do you mean if it's true?
Well, I mean, you know,
You're trying to be
looks like
nice.
a duck. Yeah, looks like a duck. I mean, I've read the stuff out there, and it's like, yeah, you can't make an argument that it's not true. And I think him using his social media presence and, you know, his kind of groupies to all rally behind him, it's,
Yeah, people use their social media presence and their groupies to do damage to the organization. You got to watch out for them.
yeah, but
That was a little
mean-
joke, because that's going to get turned on me, I think.
yeah, I mean, but at the end of the day, it's not, I don't think this doesn't make you look bad. It makes the organization look bad. And the more
Yeah.
information that comes out, it shows the ineffectiveness of the organization to conduct any type of investigation. So that needs to be remedied. I think they probably need to go ahead and fix this paying to reshoot classifiers. Get rid of that.
Well, they don't worry. The match director said they never got the money anyway. So
Yeah, I mean, but there's just too many things that, I mean, the invitation only classifier match, it's all just on the surface seems really, really suspect.
well, that actually, and then the deeper you dig, what I found with this situation, the more digging I do, because I dug into it a little bit, which might not surprise you, but I dug into it, and the more you dig, it's just like, man, this is just the stuff that's on paper. Like, I can't imagine the sort of soft cheating that went on. It's where it's not recorded, or where it's like depends on who's around type of a thing, or like, hey, that hit looks like that or not that, or this was the situation, so maybe that's a reshoot. Like, I can't even imagine all the stuff that went on at the some of those matches. I mean, I would imagine it's not too good.
No, it's, I mean, borderline just not even shooting, just sitting around drinking beer, filling out the tablet.
Yes. Well, anyway, the reason I'm talking about this is there's a major problem in the organization. There's a major disconnect. The people who make decisions need to sort that shit out, because it is a problem. Fuck it, like, serious problem. So anyway, let's move on, Matt. Let's talk about demonstrating in classes. And you've actually, unbeknownst to many, you've trained with a ton of dudes, right? You don't have to name them, but you've trained with a ton of guys.
Yeah, quite a few guys.
So let's talk about demonstrating.
So yeah, the more, you know, and as I start teaching a little bit and running across people, you know, and I'm a big believer in the demonstration, you know, and shooting actually as part of the class, and, you know, kind of that demonstrable performance. And come to find out, there is a laundry list of guys out there that not only don't demonstrate, I've heard it go as far as don't even put a gun on or carry a gun for the length of a class.
Yes, like, but there are some people who have the opinion that that's the way to go, is they don't demonstrate.
Yeah, and I think that's a huge, you know, it's a failure on those instructors to not demonstrate. I understand that you know, everybody likes to use the argument about, well, you know, football coaches can't do what an offensive lineman coach can't do what the offensive line does, or the head coach can't do what the receivers do. And I get that, but you're talking about a completely different sport, a completely different activity, where shooting, you still should be able to demonstrate skills, hard skills, and fundamentals at a level of what you're demanding or expecting from students, or at least to these stories that you're teaching to.
Well, so that's the piece of it you're talking about, is the sort of the authority piece, where it's like you see the guy do the thing, and that like, for you look at him like, yep, on some level this dude knows what he's talking about.
Yeah.
Right. So how does that work for you? Like with your colleagues, when you're like, hey, whatever the situation, like some guy says this is the way to do this thing, and if you can see him do the thing, you're like, yep, cool. Like that, I automatically am paying attention, at least.
Right. And there's so much to where, you know, with shooting and different things like that, once you hear the correct cadence, or you hear and
Right.
see the shooting taking place, the reloads, or whatever the skill that you're trying to drill down on
Yeah,
happen
and
in
that
front of you, it becomes a reality to you.
right. And so that's the piece of it. That's the hey, like this is what I want you to do, and seeing it actually helps you. Like there's a lot of data on this. Actually seeing something happen in front of you, you're like, oh, I mean, I understand now better. It's better than having it described.
Right. No,
Absolutely. I mean, which sounds obvious, but for the guys who aren't demonstrating anything, like it's not obvious to them.
no, and they're, you know, a lot of guys are teaching to, you know, an experience that is extremely outdated. Probably most of it is, you know, not necessarily the truest of of experience. You know, everybody's the ultimate commando. Everybody's the one man national asset out there. But you come across, you're like, yeah, no problem. Show me.
There's some guys in competitive shooting circles who don't demonstrate as well.
No, I've seen that too.
Which that, I mean, to me, I work on my demos, and this will sound goofy, but I've actually, like the last few years, I've been working on demonstrations of things that are wrong. So I try to demo it like this is what I want to see, and then demo this is what I don't want to see. And then people start seeing that, and I'm good at doing certain things. Like I can do it the wrong way on demand in a very specific wrong way. And I'm like, yeah, so that's this problem. And now you're seeing that problem. People, and I think that helps a lot too.
It does. Yeah. If you want to, you have to have the, you know, the ability to.
Oh, I can fuck up on demand, Matt. You just ask me.
Yeah. Yeah, but consistently fuck up the way that you want to fuck up.
I'm really good at it. Yeah.
I was watching one of your class dumps on Training Group today. Actually, it was the transition drill.
Yeah.
Where you purposely like herky jerky overrun transitions. Exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, and I think that helps people.
It does.
Like,
no,
that's
that
a piece of the
over-exaggeration.
demonstration.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It does, but it's also, you know, the ability to do that's the byproduct of the process that you went through.
And it's the byproduct of understanding the process and being able to convey it to other people.
Right. Where a lot of guys, you know, it's these dudes come up with these off the wall things about, hey, I've shot 1,000,000 rounds and all this shit, and your time in the military. It's just not a real thing. You know, and you see it as soon as they get on the range, right? It's they're not what their kind of what their standards are. I think if you made up some standards, you should be icing those standards every time you go out there.
Oh, how dare you, sir? But yeah.
So what are guys that don't demo but are putting on classes, like what explanation or are they giving for failing to demonstrate? Choosing not to demonstrate.
I don't know. I don't get too deep into that, but I've heard it's not about how well I can do it. It's about you doing it. I've been in a couple sort of, I guess you'd call them tactard classes in my time. And the demonstration was very light. And these are I like the instructors. It wasn't about that, but it's like very little demonstration of shooting. And just my sense of it was like, these guys cannot do it every time. And that doesn't, you know, like they were nice guys and had good intellectual understanding of the material, but it was apparent to me, and maybe not apparent to other people. It was apparent to me, like they can't do it every time, and they're gonna fuck up demos, and that's gonna make them sad. You know what I mean? It's like that was my read on it at that time. There's guys in competitive shooting circles who be like, hey, it's not about how well I can shoot. That's not the what it's about. It's about how well you can shoot.
Yeah, but I think from the instructor side, you know, professional competitive shooter or some pedigreed former military guy, it's 100% the perception that people that don't know you on how well you can shoot. That's the only reason they're paying you to come out there.
That has been my experience, is that demonstration is very important. I mean, a guy turning up with I can't imagine your reaction if you turn up to shoot with me and I don't demonstrate or touch a gun. You probably would say some not very nice things about me to my face.
Mean, no, it would be like, yeah, that was I shot a bunch, but yeah, I don't think we'll train together anymore.
Oh my God. Well, fantastic. All right, Matt, speaking of demonstrations, we got to talk about this class that I'm not doing anymore. December, what is it, 6 and 7 or 7 and 8? I don't even remember anymore.
7 and 8.
December 7 and 8, I was supposed to be in North Carolina doing a class, which I decided not to do. And then I got an email from a guy. So this Tony Cowden was hosting me for a class. I mean, obviously, in light of events, in light of circumstance, I don't really feel like doing that. But I got an email from a guy. It's like, hey, I really wanted to be in that class. And then it hit me like a bolt of lightning. I can still go to North Carolina and do a class those days because I know a guy who knows some guys that own a range and can set that shit up. So that's what Matt's done. So we're going to do a combined, X-ray alpha, dickhead practical. I don't know. Like, what do you want to do it? Matt and I are doing a practical shooting class. So we'll have double the students that I would normally have, but double the instructor. So it should be, I think it's going to be pretty cool. I've gotten some emails about it asking like, hey, so Matt and I teaching a shooting class. Matt, am I to bring my plate carriers?
No.
Should I bring a helmet?
This is 100% competitive shooting.
Oh. So are you going to sit around and tell war stories?
No, I don't even do that in my regular classes.
Okay. So it is not a LARPing sort of situation.
No, there will be no tactical cosplay.
Right. The most LARPing that's going to happen is if you show up in your high speed like USPSA, like I don't know, Rudy Project jersey or something, like posing like a sponsored shooter. We'll do that sort of LARPing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I don't wear a jersey in classes either, but no, we're going to do it'll be a big class, but like I said, we're going to have a range. We'll do the kind of the practical shooting fundamentals piece of it, but with me and Matt and tons of students there, I imagine it'll be predominantly military guys that are doing practical shooting, but
so far it's been, last night we had 13 guys sign up. So
it's going to be more than that. It's going to be like probably more than 20 people, but we'll be able to handle the volume.
Yeah, we got 25 seats that guys can register for on my website. So there's only one military guy for my work that is getting into competitive shooting that signed up.
Okay. So a big class like that, if you're wondering if that's too many, I've done it before. In Uruguay, Gaston and I did a class of similar size, just with two competent instructors that are on the same page. It was fine. It's gonna be a good class. I think it's gonna be a lot of fun. You'll actually do more shooting and less stages with that many guys, because I'm not going to stand there and watch 25 guys run a stage. So not a productive use of time. But so you'll be doing kind of more drills and more bigger drills, and we'll have plenty of space. It's going to run efficiently. It'll be good.
Yeah, the range that we're going to has a little shoot house that we'll be able to use. We'll have 2 bays, and we'll have the ability to set up any type of stage that you want. Plenty of stands, steel, all that stuff.
Yeah, so it's going to be excellent. If you're wondering, guys, again, as a reminder, Matt is a Grand Master of Grand Wizard of Shooting in USPSA, and you've heard his take on demoing. So he can demo shit the right way. I'm going to demo it the wrong way, the what not to do, and I think it'll be pretty good. I think it'll be a good class. It'll be excellent.
Yeah. No, I think it's going to be a good time.
Well, guys, we were going to do a question, but I feel like we kind of ran long on time, huh? And you have a marriage that you'd like to keep intact, Matt?
Yeah.
Okay.
I would.
So, yeah. So I mean, that's great. Well, guys, this is excellent. So thank you for coming on, and I think we had a fruitful, fun conversation today. And if you were supposed to be in a class with me in North Carolina, you could be in a class with me and Matt in North Carolina on the same days, basically the same place. I don't know how within an hour drive or so, something like that, huh, man?
Yeah, it's within an hour. It's going to be at Trigger Time Range in Carthage, North Carolina.
Yeah.
All the information's on xrayalpha.com. Go check it out.
Fantastic. All right, and if you have any questions you'd like the answer to, or if you have any more info you'd like to leak me to dump at the appropriate time, should it become necessary, bensteger.com. Send me your stuff there, and we'll have a good conversation.